Hi there, I'm Jake.
And I'm Ashley.
And we're on turn 9 of our game here in the Blind Eternities. At the end of a long turn, it's nice to sit back, relax, and enjoy a drink. So we're going to have a fun little in-step here, where Ashley has chosen the topics for the day, but I've chosen the drink. And we're breaking away from our usual, and we're having a nice cup of coffee, because we're starting a little bit late, and I need a pick-me-up. This coffee is from Iron and Kin. It's the Gordon Street blend that they do. And it's got graham crackers and black cherry and a couple other flavors mixed into it. It is excellent. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's been a really long time since I've had just straight cold brew, because I usually drink a latte. You make really good cold brew.
I like it a lot. I have one of those towers that makes it like a gallon at a time. So this is kind of my weekly ritual of making a big pot of cold brew.
Yes, and I am tired this week, so I am glad to have my coffee.
I think it's a good call. Do you want to tell us what we're talking about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that we'd start by talking about some recent news, and then start by looking a little bit further back in Magic and talking a little bit about Magic history. And I've got a game for you to play today, so I'm kind of excited about that. We're going to test Jake's knowledge a little bit and see how he does. But first, I felt like getting a little bit turtley. So you want to tell us what happened with turtles this week? Because, last week we were talking about how we weren't going to have to talk about turtles for a while.
I was so excited. I said that it was nice that Wizards of the Coast was giving every set now an opportunity to breathe by delaying that preview season just a little bit more to put some gaps between the different sets. Because looking back at the last year, we had Aether Drift that was kind of overrun with Final Fantasy previews, and then Final Fantasy had about a month before MagicCon brought a bunch of previews from the next set, Edge of Eternities. But then Edge of Eternities got kind of overrun with Spider-Man previews that were taking place on the same weekend as the pre-release. And then the Spider-Man set got to live for a month and a half without any interruptions because they had Final Fantasy stuff coming out and they had kicked Lorwyn into 2026. So now here we are with Lorwyn and a new policy for how they do previews. And so we don't have to worry about, Turtles got released during the pre-release tournament.
Yep.
And the entire weekend on every platform has been inundated with pictures of people opening Ninja Turtles cards over a month ahead of time.
Yay.
So
this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about it. The turtle set looks fine. I don't know. Should be fun. But the fact that it's coming out on the pre-release weekend again and trampling a in-universe set just frustrates me a little bit.
It does. It makes me a little bit sad. Although I will say, the one thing that I am really excited that you pointed out to me is how they're using maybe the taglines for each of the turtles from like the song.
In the theme song.
It's actually, I'm really excited about that. Anyway, yes, I'm upset.
So, with what we've seen so far, I think we're about 75% of the way through the entire theme song with just card titles, because there's also Turtle Power. Mm-hmm. There's also, a bunch of the gaps get filled in with the different character names and the different titles. Yeah.
The funny thing about this, too, is we also just recently talked about how Magic had, at one point, accidentally let slip a bunch of cards to somebody and then sent the Pinkerton after this person to get those cards back.
Yeah.
And we were like, if you get cards ahead of time, do not post about them. And then people immediately obviously ignored that and posted about them.
Well, something that was kind of funny is with this pre-release, Wizards actually put out a notice to the stores saying, hey, we had a bit of a mix-up. Certain cards got inserted into pre-release kits. Mm-hmm. And so if you have this situation where somebody opens a promo card that isn't designed for that set, if they open a Ninja Turtle, they didn't say that in the notice, what the store is supposed to do is replace that promo card with a different promo from a different kit. And I know at least in a couple of cases, the shop opened another kit and it also had a Ninja Turtle promo in it.
Gotta love that.
And in other cases, like our shop, that we frequent, I think that the number of kits that we got, just allocation-wise, was almost exactly how many spaces we had in the tournament itself. So we didn't have the spare kits to swap anything out.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we didn't run into that particular issue, but I imagine that's fairly common. So
yeah.
It's just a headache all around, I think.
It's disappointing. And I feel like at some point when you make a mistake like that, you just got to own it and be like, yep, I guess that's legal in pre-release. Like, because you know what?
Yeah,
if it's
absolutely.
good, great, let them use it. If it's not good, then whatever, that's fine too. Right? They're not going to use it at that point. So I don't know. I think it's even worse at some point to backpedal and be like, whoops, we made a mistake and you're not allowed to use it. Like,
I think they were allowed to use it. It was just
oh,
trying to get
okay.
them the correct promo.
I misunderstood. Yeah, that's fair and valid.
The guidance wasn't that they couldn't play that, but rather to provide an alternative if they got one of the mixed up kits.
Well, you know what they have to do now?
Put a bunch of Lorwyn stuff in the Turtles kit?
100%. Yeah, all of the promos that were supposed to go in this one need to go in the Turtle kit now.
Or just super jump the shark and replace the Turtle kits wholesale with Star Trek. Just like straight to the end of the year. I think it'd be great.
Okay. Something I will say, though, is we were talking about what Secret Lair could have been. It would have been so cool if there was, like, an intentional hiding of, like, Secret Lair things in promo cards. Like, you know how they did, like, cool. The One Ring or something like that? If they ever did, like, a Willy Wonka thing, and you could find your golden ticket inside the pre-release set for a different pre-release before that came out, that would be so cool.
Actually, that would be a really fun way to do, like, numbered card releases.
Yeah.
Because what they've done in this pre-release, this is the first time in, I think, over a decade of releasing pre-release cards, maybe even longer than that. Because I know they've done it since the beginning, but I think they took a gap in the middle. They stamp the card with the specific, it used to be year and date.
Yes.
Now it's just the year for that pre-release.
Yes.
But starting with Lorwyn, that stamp isn't on the card. You just get a foil version of the card as your promo.
That's
So
actually really disappointing.
Yeah. Which means it's no different than any regular foil version of the card. So people that are looking to collect kind of unique prints or unique stamps. I have a collection of all of the pre-release cards from probably 2002 to 2008 or 9 for every set that's in there with the date stamped on it. I really like those. And I use them in a variety of decks. But it's kind of cool to have that I was there type thing on it.
Yeah, and it's also really fun for me as somebody who didn't play during that time when I dig through his collection and I'm like, this has a year on it. Look, it's so cool. Yeah. And I get to kind of see the different stages of Magic and like when things came out and have a good understanding of kind of what was going on during different times. I think that's cool. And to have a timestamp is really special.
Yeah. And it used to be a single card.
Yeah.
Like everyone got the exact same card at the pre-release.
Right.
Now they've diversified that because that caused just catastrophic damage to the value of certain cards.
Oh, totally.
Just because there were so many that everyone had a copy.
Yeah.
So now the new ones are kind of varied and get any random rare.
Sure.
But yeah, the fact that we got to see almost every rare in the entire Ninja Turtle set before it even dropped, I'm a little curious to see how preview season is going to go.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they're going to respond to this in any way. Yeah, like if there's going to be changes to the way, not just the way that it's released, but if they make tweaks to the set or if they end up having to do things kind of in reaction to this.
Yeah.
I don't think they really have time to make any tweaks to the set. Like that's not happening. But like I'm just wondering what their pivot looks like from here. Like how do you fix this? I don't think you can.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be cool to turn this into the new norm. So at the Ninja Turtle pre-release, you get a bunch of rares and stuff from the next set kind of scattered in there as a way of seeding kind of that preview season, but it does really cut the legs out from under any ambassadors that are supposed to be giving out preview card videos and things. The
one thing that I do think is really funny about you saying that is you were just talking about how you like giving set room to breathe. Yeah. And if you start previewing at a pre-release, that completely undercuts that. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do it, at least be like, yes, that was on purpose.
This is intentional.
This is intentional.
Absolutely. We're also putting out a toy line for every card that comes.
Totally. I like to, so I have an art degree. And an art degree is a BA degree, but I always joke that I have a BS degree because one of the main things I learned in my art degree is being able to say, yes, that was intentional when somebody's like, wow, this is such a cool thing.
Yes.
So I feel like this is kind of a missed opportunity on Magic's part to be like, yes, that was intentional. It is a secret and surprise, you're welcome.
Yes. Now see, I have a BS degree and we don't joke.
That's BS. They joke more than anybody else I've ever met.
Anyways, that's enough for that topic.
Yeah. You're welcome for that ending. One of the other things in recent news that happened is Premodern bans.
Yeah, so that was real recent. That was like
Yeah.
this morning that I
So
saw it.
talk to me about that.
So Premodern, for those of you who don't know, is a set that spans roughly 1995 to 2001.
Yes.
It is specifically the border that I started playing Magic in. And so it's pre-Mirrodin, so in that classic border, but post, like, Fallen Empires, where the cards are a little bit darker and you can noticeably tell the difference on the back of the cards. This is when Extended was really popping off in Magic. That's effectively what Premodern represents.
Sure.
And so in the Premodern format, there are no new cards ever introduced. It's been the same format since 2001. Now, people have really only been trying to grow it since like 2018. But it has that nostalgia factor for me. It has a really cool style of metagame because it's completely fixed. It definitely is fixed in time, but they've still been making bans and adjustments to the list over time, just as different decks become too popular or too powerful. So we saw a land tax ban a few years ago, and then just now we saw a Parallax Tide ban. Now, Parallax Tide is a card from Nemesis that has the fading ability.
Okay.
So it comes in with a bunch of counters, and every turn you remove a counter, so eventually it just goes away. But you can intentionally remove counters from it to do a thing. And in Parallax Tide's case, that do a thing is exile target land.
Okay.
So you get to go after your opponent's lands. But there's kind of an interesting interaction on this because it has the old Oblivion Ring text where one line of text says when it does a thing, exile a thing.
Yes.
And then the second line is when it leaves play, return those things to play. So if you're able to flip the orders on that, being I exile that land, in response I exile that land, in response I exile that land, in response I return my Parallax Tide to my hand with a Chain of Vapor. Parallax Tide says, okay, I'm going to return all of the lands to play, because that's at the top of the stack. And then it starts exiling all the lands.
Yes.
So you can use this as a one-sided Armageddon most of the time.
Oh, that's so fun, though.
So here's the thing about Premodern, though.
Yeah.
The format doesn't really care about unfair or unfun stuff. And they call this out in their ban list announcement. It seems like this ban is entirely driven by the fact that Premodern just jumped into Magic Online as an officially recognized format. So in this very delicate phase where Wizards has turned its gaze upon a new format, that format needs to be cast in good light, and one-sided Armageddons are not a lot of... It won't bring a lot of people in.
People hate land destruction. Yeah, no, and what's really funny about that is that almost harkens back to when they were pushing to originally put Magic into competition.
Yeah.
There was a lot of shifting in the ban lists. And I do think that this is not necessarily, because again, it's not in response to new cards coming in. Right. It's in response to this new audience and needing it to have good optics for this new audience to make people want to play this thing. And if you look at kind of the original ban list in Magic the Gathering and how much variety there was in this original ban list, a lot of that was to prepare Magic to be camera ready for when they were doing some of their original like competitions, etc.
That's definitely how this feels.
Yeah.
And if you look at the metagame in Premodern leading up to this, it was like the maximum percent representation of an individual deck was like 9%.
Wow.
On Stifled Dreadnought, which is kind of an adjacent deck that just drops a 12/12 trample on turn 2.
Sure.
Right? That's
that's pretty scary no matter what.
It's a scary, powerful format. It's intentionally that way.
Sure.
But 9% is not overwhelming. That's
no,
not
absolutely not. Yeah.
And the win results are also kind of similarly in that like maybe 10 or 12% in any given deck. So you have some things that are higher meta contenders than others. But on Magic Online, it was like 30% Parallax Tide.
Oh, wow.
And so it was this huge overrepresentation of one particular strategy that's extremely one-sided, explosive, and not particularly fun to play against.
Yeah.
So I think this was a tactical decision to kind of try to let the format be introduced to new players before it just gets completely written off.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm really interested in, so again, we were talking about kind of in the OG Magic with lots of ban lists, they made a lot of changes and a lot of shifts to ban lists in a very short amount of time. Since then, I think they've gotten a lot better at understanding what needs to be banned and where the power level comes from. I'm not saying they're perfect at it, but I am saying they don't generally release 2 ban lists 2 weeks before something happens, right? And so thinking about the future of Premodern in a digital format where it moves much quicker, I would say, than kind of like physical paper cards, because people get really attached to physical cards and people seem to be a little bit less attached to virtual cards.
That's true.
So what do you think that's going to look like? Are they going to have ban seasons, or is this going to be something where in this case it was kind of just a really fast, like they saw this was an issue and they responded to it? What is that going to look like moving forwards?
I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. When you talk about people getting attached to their cards, I think that's one element. The other element of this is that cards are expensive.
Yeah, that's true.
And online cards are not.
Yeah.
So if you can build some of the best decks in the format for $15, you might as well do that, even though that deck is $2,000 in paper.
It's very true.
It's hard to get a hold of 4 Mox Diamonds.
Yes.
So a few things I would like to see them do in the deck, in this whole format, is introduce like a 10 proxy guideline on this. I don't think they need to go full proxy. There's a certain aversion to introducing proxies in some of these classic formats, and I get that. Especially if this is kind of sanctioned adjacent, if Wizards is actually stepping in on that. But I do think there has to be some allowance for proxies. They already allow the gold border cards in most places. This was the World Championship cards that they printed. And that takes care of some of these cards. There's gold borders Gaia Cradle, there's gold bordered Grim Monoliths, what are the other big ones? But like a few of the cards are still missing. I don't think there's a gold border Mox Diamond.
Okay.
As an example. So there are still some gaps, but I want people to be able to play the decks that they find fun, and I think proxies allow for that. So just some wiggle room on that would be really nice.
Something that I am wondering, so you were talking about like how some of the joy in playing Premodern is also how difficult it was to find cards, right? Because you're looking at this as kind of a nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
And during that time, it was a lot harder to find and build decks, right? Like finding individual cards was something that you kind of had to go to local game stores, and like if you were traveling, you would stop into a local game store to see if they had that card that you were looking for but couldn't find anywhere. So I'm wondering if it would be smart of them to replicate some of the difficulty in finding those things in an online format somehow. Like how do you make that scarcity kind of a thing so it feels like you're playing 1995 Magic the Gathering?
I don't know that that's necessarily something we need to go back to.
I think that would be very fun.
But it does create a certain attachment to it. I've told this story before, but I have a play set of Coat of Arms, specifically from Exodus, that I hunted down over a period of months, and I got the 4th one in like Denver, Colorado while on vacation.
Yeah.
So, that's a set of cards that's really special to me, and I think Premodern has some of those elements where people are super attached to their cards. They have weird foils, weird altars and things, and they really trick out their deck in cool ways.
I'm curious how that's going to be represented in an online format. Like when you take something that's special like that, what does that translate to for the people who are like, oh yeah, I play Premodern, but it's online. So it's a very different culture that they're introducing to this kind of established.
Sure. Yeah. My perspective on Magic is that it's got 3 main pillars.
Okay.
You have your gameplay, you have your collectability, and you have your community.
Got your gathering.
And most of those online formats are just gameplay.
Sure.
They try to make the collectability kind of minimized. They want people to have access to the cards to play the way that they want to play. And you also don't really have that community in the same way because it's remote.
Yes.
So you can type in chat, but most people are terrible.
Yeah.
And so you don't always want to.
Yes.
So on Magic Arena, they've actually restricted it, so all you can do is spam hello, hello, hello if you're trying to be obnoxious, which is a lot easier to deal with.
That's rough, buddy, which is my favorite way to be obnoxious on it.
Yeah. But because it's so focused on the gameplay aspect, you just don't really have that.
Yeah. I wonder if there's an argument that could be made for looking at kind of what Magic the Gathering could be, right? Because again, you're talking about these 3 pillars of Magic the Gathering, but you don't think about most games from that aspect. So when you look at online play,
You're saying that games in general.
Games in general,
Yeah, gotcha.
right?
Okay.
So like you're like thinking about like Uno or something like that.
We have a strong Uno community here.
Right? But that's like not a thing. Like, I mean, my family does, but like that's my family,
Yeah.
right? But like, you know what I mean? Like that's just not, it's not really like, there's no meta. Maybe there's a meta. Is there a meta in Uno? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm going to look this up afterwards. But anyways, my point stands. Like those three pillars don't stand in all kinds of games.
True. Mm-hmm.
Right? And so if you're thinking about like board games in general and thinking about like how board games function, usually it's very heavily reliant just on the mechanics of the game.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you could make an argument that Magic Arena, Magic Online is closer to a board game in terms of experience than Magic the Gathering in general would be, like in-person paper Magic.
Yeah. No, I could see that. Yeah, because you are kind of missing that piece of it a little bit. I do think board games have a lot of that community aspect as well, though.
They do, but there's no meta.
Some games definitely have a meta. People that
Sure.
play Catan seriously have a really strong
Yeah, I
perspective
guess
on
that's
it.
super fair. But again, you're missing kind of the collectability
No, that's true.
aspect,
You
right?
don't
So you're
have the
not getting all
flexibility with-
three pillars
Yeah,
in
your stuff.
most games, right? Like the experience of Magic the Gathering is very specific to a lot of like trading card style games.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of more like board game style games, especially like casual board game style games, which Magic Online is not, right? There is that competition aspect to it, and you are trying to like compete for specific things that you're trying to earn. But I wonder if it's maybe like Risk Legacy or something like that, where like there's sort of a community, but they're terrible. And also...
They just need to add other elements to Magic Online.
Uh-huh.
So you score victory points as you do things.
Sure.
And so sometimes, even if you haven't, lost to your opponent on damage, they build longest road and you're just out of the game.
Ticket to ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like, oh, I guess that wasn't my goal today.
Oh no, they reached the East Coast. They get 32 points. I lose.
Exactly. That'd be crazy. Can you imagine? Oh my goodness. That feels like if you were... Okay, so what's this thing? It's called, what is it? Don?
Oh yeah. Don.
Okay, so this Don, the fish, feels like if you took the pieces of Magic the Gathering and tried to make kind of a board game style-y thing to me.
Absolutely.
Right, and I'm just curious how many more ways you could take Magic and make it feel like a board game.
Sure. Yeah, and also you see some of those same elements in Don as the shortcomings of some of those like board game-esque gameplay features.
Totally.
Where depending on how you have your Don deck built, there is a metagame that develops, and there is kind of an optimal play that shows up, where you see people look at a list and go, oh, you're playing that deck that just memory lapses your opponent out of the game.
Yeah.
And you lock your opponent out while you slowly beat them to death one damage at a time.
We should probably explain what Don is in case there are people in our audience who don't know what that is. Can you do like a very brief mini version? Yeah. What is Don?
Don is... Oh, I'm going to mess this up because I don't know
the
exact details.
I'm so sorry. We didn't talk about this ahead of time.
Don is a single deck format where everyone's drawing off the same deck. It's a mono blue deck, and it plays a bunch of copies of Don, which is a 4/1 for blue, but it can only attack a player with an island, or it can only attack if you have an island. So you need an island on both sides of the field for it to be able to attack. Generally mediocre card, but because everyone's drawing off the same deck, everyone has islands. That's the entire name of the game.
Yeah.
The different variations of it, and you can find this online, swap out some cards, and so some decks that people build are extremely heavy on control, and other decks are a little bit more aggro.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it. It's a fairly short list of cards, and before it got popular, you could buy the entire list for like $12.
Yeah. Can it be so real?
Now
That feels so much like Exploding Kittens to me. In terms, like, it really does feel
bit,
like it's kind of like very much based on like what you draw and like how you get to use what you draw.
Yeah.
That's really
fun. And where Memory Lapse comes in, if you don't know what Memory Lapse does, it counters target spell and puts it on top of that player's library instead of into their graveyard.
Yeah, literally so Exploding Kittens.
You counter your opponent's thing, and then you get to draw it on the next turn.
You diffuse it.
Yeah.
And...
Okay. Yeah. Don is Exploding Kittens.
Don is Exploding Kittens, but in Magic. You're welcome. This has been a hot take by Ashley Raleigh. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. No, and I think it's, That's very fun. All right, that was not on my list of things to talk about today, but I'm glad that that's where that conversation went.
But yeah, Premodern is growing. I encourage you to check it out. There are some decks that are very budget. Most people that are just getting into the game are perfectly fine with proxies, so discuss that with your group. Build a battle box, try it out. There's an extremely diverse format there and a lot of really fun degenerate strategies, despite this being a 2-decade-old format.
Yeah, and then you can sound super snooty and know all of the cards from 2 decades ago and sound like you were an old Magic player.
Yeah. I'm just old. I'm not trying anything here. I just am old.
So speaking of like thinking about like history of Magic, I want to kind of move us back into something that I thought was really cool this week. So I have a drive to work. My drive to work is about an hour and 45 minutes. It's really long. So one of the things that I like to do is listen to podcasts. And one of the podcasts I like to listen to is Mark Rosewater's Drive to Work podcast. It seems really fitting on my drive into work. And one of the episodes that I listened to recently was about Mox and Lotus. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because in this episode, he talks about what his idea of power words in Magic the Gathering are.
Sure.
And I think this might just be a Mark Rosewater thing. I've not seen power words in Magic in like other places. So I think this might just be like how he thinks about it. But this concept of power words is words in Magic the Gathering that are supposed to invoke this feeling of power, right? So like you hear this word, you know, like, oh, this is probably going to be a powerful card.
Yeah.
Right. And so I brought this up with Jake, and that got us thinking about words in Magic the Gathering. And then also words in other games, especially trading card games, and how different trading card games use words differently. And so when you think about words in Magic the Gathering, I think one of the first things that comes to mind is keywords.
Yes.
Especially as something that's become really powerful. Yeah.
Can I say something about the power words, though?
Oh, absolutely.
Because Mox and Lotus are iconic within Magic, and there are many cards that contain those words that are extremely powerful.
Yes.
But in an effort to not have anything from the reserve list reprinted, they've gone out of their way to add all sorts of drawbacks and weird things to all of the cards that include those words.
That's true.
And some of the recent versions that they've made have kind of chipped away at that power a little bit.
Yeah.
Cards like Mox Jasper. That is a 0 mana cost Mox that taps for any color, but only if you control a dragon.
Sure.
Is just not that good. And then you have like Mox, what is it, Tantalite has Suspend, is that right? And by the time it comes into play, you no longer need that bump in mana. So there's a bunch of weird things like that where the cards themselves kind of evoke that classic card style, but aren't good enough to be a stand-in for it.
Yeah, I would still argue that those power words, like they're still leaning into what those things do, right? As a Mox, it's a 0 cost thing that creates mana.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from. I would also argue that those things are still good situationally.
Yeah.
If you're running a Dragons deck, like, come on. Or, you know
It's
what I mean?
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's definitely like they're not going to be CEDH level cards.
Sure.
You're right. But I think it also depends on how you define what power level looks like in your Magic game.
That's true. And I will say with Lorwyn having a variety of changelings in it, there might be something weird you can do with Mox Jasper. But my point is just in terms of it being a power thing, it's a little wonky. But I do like the fact that these are very clearly through lines through the multiverse of Magic.
Yes.
Where on different planes, these will look a little bit different, right? Chrome Mox popping up on Mirrodin as a brand new plane that, Karn put together using the Mirari.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this Mox forms. And it's just like, this is a natural byproduct of making a new reality.
Yeah, and I also like, so when you think about the definition of power word in general, the way that I've heard power word described to me is a word that incorporates intention to make something happen.
Yeah.
right? And you see this in a lot of different Magic systems. And so while Magic the Gathering hasn't officially taken on this concept of power words, except Mark Rosewater, who is the lead designer, talks about it. So a little bit.
I think there is a power word card from the Dungeons and Dragons set.
Well, there's power word something, and it's like something if you name a word or something like that. Yeah. But anyway, so I like the idea of these things embodying an intention, right? So like the power word lotus, power word mox is like when something happens, something else is created, and it's created through this intention. And that's kind of what this concept of power words are. So like I like it from the standpoint of kind of lore. And while you may not think of power when you hear mox or lotus, I definitely still do. Yeah. So
and I think power word Oko that makes abs.
Should we just start calling him Abby?
Because seriously,
I'm so down for that. That is so funny. Do you think they're gonna have a K-pop Demon Hunter thing in the future?
I think there was some weird notice that went out that implied a partnership between Wizards of the Coast and Sony. At a weird
my
point
goodness,
where
that would be very funny.
So we'll see. It might be like a secret layer release.
Sure.
Thing.
And I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah. A whole set probably won't come from that.
Do you think we'll get a hot Obnixilis?
That'd be pretty good.
Genu Obnixilis!
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I mean, you're going to have Rumi as Lily on it, right? With the tattoos and everything like
gosh,
that.
I'm so into that. Yeah. You don't even know.
Anyways, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I love this. Yeah. So that's kind of what I was thinking about for this. But anyway, so one of the things that I did while we were kind of preparing for this conversation is I started looking into keywords and like what Magic in general thinks about their language and their words and like how they utilize those words.
Yeah.
And I came across this really interesting article titled Keywords to the Wise, and it was released May 19th, 2003.
Cool. I might have read it.
You might have read it. It's by Mark Rosewater again, and it's also talking about kind of what is going on with this time period where keywords are starting to be more prolific, right? And so it focuses very specifically on Invasion, Odyssey, and Onslaught, and kind of the ramp up of what happens for each of these things, because in Invasion, there is one keyword. In in Odyssey, there's 3 keywords, and then in Onslaught, there's 8 keywords. And so they're talking about why this is. So I'm going to ask you, why do you think there was this ramp up in these 3 sets where keywords went from being very minimally used to all of a sudden being used much more often?
I'm kind of curious how much of it is a reaction to other trading card games coming out around the same time and trying to differentiate themselves.
Okay.
Right, because Pokemon came out in 1999.
Sure, yeah.
And then Yu-Gi-Oh! Came out in 2002.
Yes.
And I think somewhere in the middle, they realized that these other games are getting very wordy with the way that their cards work. And as sort of a differentiator from that, they wanted to condense it. And Magic has pushed that a lot recently with trying to remove as many words as possible from the text box.
Yes.
But that's definitely something that we noticed when we were trying to teach Bowden to play card games.
Yes, it's very true.
Because it was very difficult to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Without being able to read. But in Magic...
It's even difficult playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With being able to read. Some of those cards are just like so hard to read, and I'm just like, I have really good vision.
Yeah. That's
and
true.
like
they're
it's wordy. A box of words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Magic, I think, stands in stark juxtaposition to that, where there's a lot of keywords, there's a lot of iconography in the text box.
Yes.
With mana symbols and tap symbols and a variety of other things. You know, they could spell all of this out and go back to the original, you may pay 1 green mana and tap this creature to do... But instead, they've condensed that, and I think keywords is a part of that.
Yeah.
You know, instead of saying attacking doesn't cause this creature to tap, it says vigilance.
Yes.
And even if you can't pronounce it, you know that vigilance does the same thing every time,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's really easy to read a Magic card at a glance.
Yeah, absolutely. do you want to know what this article said about why they're kind of shifting to using keywords?
I'm totally wrong. Why?
There's two things about it which I thought were really interesting.
Okay.
One of them was to create uniformity, because they were noticing that in different play groups, there were pockets of these keywords that people were making up to represent abilities that seemed similar or were the same.
Oh, so this is like rummage.
Yeah.
Being shorthand for any card that says discard a card, draw a card.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, or like mill from millstone.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right? So like those are
amazing that didn't get a keyword until like 2015. But
yeah.
anyways.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of what was happening, and they noticed different play groups, these different pockets would come and play next to each other, and they'd be like, I do this, using their made up keyword essentially. Yeah. And the other group would be like, what does that mean? And so by giving keywords to these abilities, they were creating uniformity across these different pockets. And so everybody was using the same language. So no matter where you showed up in your playgroup, you could kind of say a word and everybody would know what that meant.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the reasons.
That's fair.
The bigger reason I thought was really interesting is when they started using keywords and they were releasing sets and thinking about abilities, they felt like they were a limited resource. They felt like those things should be confined to specific planes. And if you moved to different planes, they needed to have an entirely new set of abilities and things that happened that were specific and special to that plane.
Interesting.
And so this was actually a shift in the way that R&D thought about abilities, where they were, instead of thinking of them as kind of a limited resource, they were thinking of it as something that could be used again and again, especially if it was a good ability. So like, this is a quote from the article that like I think really puts this idea into perspective. Yeah. And it was, remember that we look at the game in a big picture sense. We aren't just concerned about next year, but about 5 years from now, from 10 years from now, 50 years from now. Because of this, we've begun thinking of our resources in a different way. Mechanics are a reusable resource, not an expendable one. If we want to keep the Magic game fresh for the long haul, we have to be able to reuse our good mechanics. I'm really glad that they did that, but I actually think that's really cool that I was reading this article as we're talking about going back to...
Right, and you were saying that in Lorwyn with Convoke.
Yes.
You're like, oh, so Convoke is coming back. And Convoke was originally a Ravnica ability. It's not even a Lorwyn ability.
Right.
It fits really well with the themes in the set, so they brought back that keyword, and everyone immediately knows how it works.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that makes sense.
And so I just love that repetition. And I like that kind of shift in thinking from like, and thinking about it as like a reusable and renewable resource.
Yep.
Because it's right. If you have a mechanic that's really good, it's actually going to work differently based on the other things that are also in that set, right? So Convoke with Changelings is really interesting because you get like a bunch of different options for what those things can do, or etc. Like you're thinking about like, this is a creature heavy set. I'm going to pull the things from before that worked really well in creature heavy sets to kind of provide additional support without having to create additional mechanics aside from the ones that I'm trying to focus on as new mechanics in this set.
Yes.
It's
Absolutely.
really cool.
Really cool.
I love hearing about this because as somebody who started playing in like 2012 and it's now like 2026, right? That seems really obvious to me that mechanics can come back.
Yeah.
But then looking at the history of Magic and realizing up until this point, that was like not a thing.
Yeah.
And also hearing the number of keywords, like the fact that there was one keyword in these, and also reading what these keywords were.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, they're so much newer than I thought they were. Like, this is 2003, so, like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But, like, still.
No, I know what you mean.
I want you to, can I try to, this is the game portion of our show. Are you ready for this?
It's time for public humiliation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I was really curious, because this is not that many keywords, right? And, again, you were playing during this time.
Yeah, I was.
So, I want to know, can you tell me what the keywords were in each of these sets? So, let's start with invasion.
Okay.
One keyword in invasion. What do you think it is?
This is a new keyword?
One keyword in invasion. This is the information that I have.
Okay.
I'm getting my information from one article, so
there's only
this has not been double checked.
Sure.
So
there's only one ability that I can think that came in invasion that didn't really exist before, and that's kicker.
Yes, you got it. Yeah, so it's kicker. So Jake is currently 1 for 1.
Kicker was an invasion, but then for the Plane Chase and Apocalypse, they didn't really have specific keywords. It was more on the color blending and a couple of the other mechanics, but they didn't have specific ability words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you ready for our next set?
Sure.
We're looking at Odyssey.
Okay.
There are 3 keywords.
Yeah. This is for Odyssey block, though, right?
Odyssey block, yes.
All right, I'm going to work backwards, because Judgment is Threshold. Torment is Madness. And Odyssey... What did they introduce in Odyssey? Flashback?
I am so impressed with you right now.
Is that right?
I am so... Oh, my man is hot.
All
yes,
right.
you're 3 for 3. That's crazy. So 4 for 4 now.
So these are the sets where they had one keyword in each set. So it was like, it was easy.
Okay.
Yeah, because Mirrodin was also Affinity, Indestructible, and Sunburst. But we're not going that far, because now I'm stuck on Onslaught with 8, apparently?
8. And some of these, I don't
Okay.
think I've ever seen before.
So here's the thing about... Oh, shoot. Oh, that messes me up. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I have. Don't take my word
here's
for
the
it.
thing
Maybe
that
I
I'm
have
thinking
and I've
with
just
Onslaught.
forgotten. Yeah, go.
I'm 90% sure this is the set where they took a lot of old abilities and turned them into keywords, right? This is the first time we saw Vigilance, because up until this point it was just attacking doesn't cause this creature to tap. So I'm going to have to name all 8 before you give me any hints on this.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
Crud. Okay, so Vigilance, let's go Fear, I think, or maybe Intimidate. It's one of those 2. I'm going to go with Fear, though. I think that was it. That might have been 8th edition. Ooh. Okay, Double Strike. That was definitely the first appearance there in, was it in Scourge? I don't know if it was in Legions or not. What were the other things in Legions they did? Because they had a lot of weird creature abilities. They brought back Cycling, but that's not it. They had, what did Astral Slide do? I don't think that was a keyword ability, though. It was just when you cycle a card, do a thing. Scourge had... Oh, gosh, I'm drawing a blank on, like...
You're
what
talking
the
yourself
keywords
out
are.
of things, I've noticed. That's the only hint I'm going to give you. You're talking yourself out of keywords.
What do you mean?
Just give me 8 keywords. Do your best, and
Okay.
I will tell you yes or no.
All right. Did they have... Are you including Cycling in this?
Do you want me to
I
give
don't
you
know.
answers?
Okay, what else was in Onslaught?
We were not clear on rules.
Yeah. Didn't have any like weird horsemanship stuff. They it was mostly creature based stuff though. I want to say so. Yeah, I don't know that. What keywords are
Okay,
in Onslaught?
give me the ones that you are like, this is probably it for sure, or maybe.
Okay, so I'm going definitely on Intimidate. I think that was brand new. Intimidate and Fear are the 2 that I'm leaning towards. They had, again, the major creature tribes, right? They had the elves, goblins, clerics, zombies, and soldiers were the 5 that they leaned on for that. And then they had beasts that also went in that. So there were a bunch of creature type specific abilities. Morph was one of the ones that was big that came out. I remember that. What are the other...
You said 1 before, and you're not saying it again. Should I just count it for you?
Sure. What was that?
Double Strike? You said Double Strike.
Oh, Double Strike. Yeah. The Double Strike, yeah, that was the
So
first
you're
time they
at,
introduced that.
so far, you've said 4, I think.
Mhm.
Fear, Intimidate, Double Strike, Morph.
Oh, it was Intimidate, okay. Morph,
This is just what you've said so far.
Yeah.
I'm not confirming they're right or wrong.
that's fine. Okay, shoot.
I'm not giving you hints. I'm just telling you what you've said.
Okay, what did they do in Scourge? Oh, was this Storm? I think they might have had Storm in that set. That might have been when they first brought that in. This wasn't Devour. It was Behold. It was the original Behold, where you reveal things from your hand. What did they call it? That's not Grandeur. That was the discarded legend. Oh, it's when it comes to play, you can reveal any number of things in your hand, and it does things equal to the total number of that. I'm not gonna get it. What were the other like weird mechanics they had in Zombies? I don't know. At some point, I'm going to be taking too much time on this exercise.
Okay, do you want to stick with those 5?
Sure.
I'm going to give you 5.5
Okay.
because you said cycling, and cycling is one of them.
Oh, cycling is one of them. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so it's amplify.
Amplify!
Is that what
that's the reveal
word?
things from your hand, and you do that number of times.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Because you said what the ability is. So amplify, that's the one I didn't recognize.
Yeah. Now they've made it behold, which I like a lot more.
Okay, cool.
You can behold dragons.
I have never seen amplify before, so I was like, I don't know what
it's
this is.
It's because amplify is any number of, whereas behold is
singular.
It's usually singular.
Show a thing. Yeah. Amplify, cycling, double strike, fear. This is where I mean land cycling.
Okay, yeah, I was right. Land cycling as separate from
yeah. They had it listed as separate.
They did because they had the cycle of big creatures.
Yep.
With land cycling.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah.
Morph.
Yeah.
So you're right on that. Provoke.
Provoke. Oh, that's when they did this a few times in Magic's history where they took an old card. Provoke is a card you can cast, and it's all creatures able to block target creature have to block that creature.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's target creature and opponent controls has to block a creature.
I played a card that had provoke on it at one point.
And so they took that and made it a keyword on a creature.
Okay.
So whenever it attacks, you effectively cast provoke. But yeah, I totally missed that. Yeah, provoke came out.
And then storm.
And storm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you only missed 2 out of...
Okay, land cycling is a stupid... narrow.
I tried to give you the hint. I tried to give you the hint, but I didn't know how to give it to you without giving it to you.
Head, but it's not actually land cycling.
No. So it's amplify, cycling, double strike, fear, land cycling, morph, provoke, and storm. And those were the 8. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Which is pretty good. 10 out of 12.
9.5 out of 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, you said it. You said it out loud, so I'm going to count it.
But I also got the 3 from Mirrodin, so I'm going to count that.
Yeah. No, you kind of rocked this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I'm so impressed with you. I would have gotten exactly 0. And also Storm, to me, the fact that it came out in 2003, for some reason Storm has been there since the beginning of time. So that's a weird one.
I mean, the thing about all of these is they're basically kicker.
Okay, so there's a conversation that people seem to have about keywords and other words in Magic the Gathering where they are basically other things. So it's like everything is basically horsemanship, kicker, and like what's the other thing?
I think it's usually horsemanship or kicker.
Okay, horsemanship or kicker. What is this concept, Jake? First of all, what is horsemanship?
Horsemanship is flying.
Okay.
But creatures with horsemanship can only be blocked by other creatures with horsemanship.
Okay. So but that came out before flying did?
No, flying came out first. But
then why is it horsemanship instead of flying?
Because they're weird. That's it. It's just esoteric.
Okay, sounds good.
But yeah, that's the joke. Is it's either horsemanship or kicker.
Right.
Because you look at fear, and you're like, I mean, it's basically horsemanship, except they can still be blocked by black creatures and artifact creatures.
Oh, okay, sure.
And storm is kind of like kicker, but it just if you paid the kicker cost of other spells, then it does it multiple times. So it is either some sort of on cast added effect, or it is a static on the field do things when things happen.
Sure.
Like those are kind of the 2 flavors of abilities. Most things in Magic fall into those categories that are like keyword type abilities.
That's super fair. Okay, I see that.
It's a bit of a stretch, but that's kind of the joke.
I like the joke. One thing that I will say, which I think is not a stretch, is that instants shouldn't exist. It should be sorceries with flash.
Yeah.
I think making flash a keyword invalidated this concept of instants. And I'm wondering, did instants happen? When did instants come into play? Were they always there?
So that's kind of a weird thing. If you look at old Magic, they're not all instants.
Sure.
There used to be this hierarchy of spell speeds.
Right.
And so you had sorceries, which were the same as creatures, artifacts, enchantments. You would cast them during your main phase, only during your main phase.
Right.
And then you could respond to those or cast interrupts.
Yeah.
In other situations.
So they were called interrupts.
Whenever, yeah. But they also had instants, and they also had mana sources.
Sure.
And so, Dark Ritual was a mana source.
Right.
And the ruling on mana sources is that they cannot be interacted with.
Right.
So because of that ruling in original Magic, because you would cast a spell and then activate your mana sources to pay for it, you could actually cast Dark Ritual as part of that mana source, and your opponent couldn't counter
So
it.
then they
because
can't counter. That's not still a rule, is
Oh,
it?
no, super not.
Okay,
no,
because that's
they've condensed that.
broken.
But yeah, the rules were a little bit fuzzy, but the idea was that you could only interact with something with a spell of a higher speed.
Gotcha.
So interrupts could do instants could do sorceries, and
When
kind of
did
down the line.
split second come into play?
Way later.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
is a much...
Split
Is that
second
kind
is
of...
like time spiral, whatever.
Is that post this concept of things being able to only interact by things faster?
It is, but split second doesn't care about speed.
No, it just
Right.
takes everything off the stack. That's the end.
It prevents anything new from being added to the stack.
That's what I mean.
Once the thing with split second is resolved, people can then continue to pile things onto the stack.
Oh, right. Yeah, so it just becomes the stack topper until that one resolves.
Yeah.
It's it's a shaky foundation, basically.
But that's one of the common misconceptions about split second is they treat it like a chain link in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where, now I have a split second card, so everything has to resolve before we move. It's just,
and it's like,
it
no,
just
that's
cares
not how
about
it works.
itself.
Once
Yeah.
it resolves, the stack is back open.
Yep.
So it's just a capper for that moment.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of other triggered things that can happen with a card with split second. It just stops activated abilities and casting spells.
But you can still technically tap mana.
Yep, you can still activate mana sources. You can still trigger something like a counterbalance.
Yes.
Which would still be able to counter a thing with split second because it's triggered. It's not anything you're activating.
Okay. Abilities okay, never mind. My brain was like, can you sacrifice? But no, that's an ability usually.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes
Anything
sense.
with a colon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't have a colon, it can't poop.
Yep. I didn't mean to thumbs up that. That wasn't what I was expecting.
I knew what you were going to do, and I was like, yes. He married me.
Anyways, yeah.
You're welcome for that.
Back to the esoteric discussion of keywords, please.
Okay, so my understanding then is the reason... Okay, so Flash... When did Flash happen? Was Flash happening early on, or when was... That was after Instance then?
That's another thing that got added super late in the game.
Yeah.
Because you had cards from this era, in the, Invasion, Mercadian Masks, whatever, that had the text on them. You can play this card anytime you could play an instant.
Okay.
That was just a thing that existed on cards.
Right.
The Flash keyword, I don't know when that was added.
Okay.
I lean towards, Time Spiral-ish. But there were a lot of cards that you could cast anytime you could play an instant.
Okay.
The aura Diplomatic Immunity, I think, you can cast anytime you can play an instant, but if you look at the Oracle text online, it just has Flash now.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I do think that's really interesting, and I'm wondering if it would have been more confusing or less confusing if instead of saying you can cast this anytime you could cast an instant, it became like a hybrid thing. So it was like a creature instant. Or like a something.
Oh.
Like that. But I don't think that's better. I think the keyword Flash is probably better in terms of understanding the function of the card. But I think it could have been like that and it would have made sense. It just would have been a different way of thinking about how things function.
So I think it changes the functionality of a lot of different cards.
Okay.
Because there are counter spells that are specifically counter target instant.
Yes.
And so now if you have this as a creature instant,
ooh, then you can counter the creature.
But if it was, counter a spell with Flash, if instants didn't exist, if they were all just sorceries with Flash, then that card would read counter target spell with Flash.
Yes.
And then you'd be able to counter a creature with Flash as well.
Yes.
So
all of a sudden it combines creatures and instants into one thing. So any creature that would have Flash could also be countered by something that could counter instants. So that's really interesting.
All that to say, making that change now would drastically impact a lot of older cards.
No, you can't do that now.
Yeah.
It would also, any enchantment that has Flash, anything like that, or any artifact. There's artifacts that have Flash.
Yeah, there's artifacts that give everything Flash.
Yeah, so oh wow, if it gives something, okay, so Thought Bubble, completely outside of Magic. Let's say that they did do that. They made it an instant, or that it said whatever.
Yeah.
So this artifact that says everything has Flash would instead say everything becomes an instant as well.
Interesting.
In addition to its whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So then at that point, would that make your can counter instant things be like I counter everything? Because it would have the subtype instant on it.
You'd be able to counter anything that's cast.
Yes.
So like playing a land obviously isn't cast.
So then it becomes good to run the thing that says everything is an instant if you have this counterspell in your deck. Right? Because then I love it when you take things that are supposed to be used as a benefit for you and just make it worse for everyone else in a way that's different from how it was intended. That is my very favorite way to use cards.
This is the root maze while you have your town guy from Final Fantasy, so it only affects your opponents.
Exactly. Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Also, like, just utilizing things in ways that it feels like you're cheating, but you're not. Like, my favorite play of all time, and you can ask pretty much anybody in the store who has seen me do this, I love not playing a land turn 1 and putting things directly into the graveyard. Once I found out that I could do this and that it was good in several of my decks that have black in them, it became my very favorite play. Like recently I won a game using World Gorger combo, and my first thing that I did in the entire game was just discard World Gorger Dragon turn 1. No land.
Yep. Draw.
I should not have won that game. Yeah. But like it's so fun. And it feels so good because everyone's like, oh, I'm so sorry. That sucks. And I'm like, yeah, it sucks. Such bad hand. Reanimate.
The turn 2 reanimate Valgavoth is often good enough.
Ragavan or Valgavoth? Valgavoth 2.
9 mana. Plunk into play on turn 2.
Yeah.
Anything your opponents do, you get to do for free next turn. It's...
That's true. I would argue that the turn 2 Razakath.
There we go.
My brain.
Yes, Razakath.
Turn 2 Razakath, turn 3 Reassembling Skeleton.
That's pretty good.
That is probably one of the best plays that my best... Forever. Yeah. That's probably one of the best plays that one of my decks can make. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, I think any opportunity that I can take to... take things that are supposed to be used in one way and use them in another way makes me personally very happy. I think that's why I like the Blight mechanic.
I think Blight's a really cool mechanic that they've introduced.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really like the keywordification of everything, where they're trying to name every ability in Magic, because you end up with weird situations that are just like, when you cast this, suspect a creature, then create a map token, and when it enters, explore. You know, like a bunch of these weird old keywords that are kind of unique.
It's true.
Like, I don't really remember what those do.
That's true. And it creates an issue for newer players because there's all of a sudden a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Because there's this old saying in Magic, like reading the card explains the card, but when they don't have reminder text on them, it really doesn't.
Yeah, we had this issue in the Lorwyn pre-release where some people had the showcase versions of specific cards that didn't have the reminder text.
Yeah. And then it's just like, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had the same issue in Avatar, where they didn't have the reminder text on, like, water bending. And it wasn't, like, some people weren't sure, like, if you could tap creatures for this, and lands, or just creatures, or just lands. Right, like, they weren't sure how that works. Yeah. And so that became an issue also.
So there are some kind of weird things about that.
Yeah.
It also means that because you're condensing abilities into a single word, there's this pressure to add more stuff to every card.
That's true.
So you get so much functionality in every text box that it can be a little cumbersome.
I think that's part of why we're losing vanilla creatures.
Yeah.
I mean, we've kind of already lost them.
Hey, they came back in Aether Drift, and everyone loved that set.
Yes. So, okay, thinking about keywords, you brought this up in the very beginning of this conversation. And thinking about, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! And thinking about Pokemon, and thinking about, like, how they utilize words in their game. This is less of a keyword thing and more of a thing that I see happening in Yu-Gi-Oh! You talk about how if something is included in the word, so, like...
They do this a lot with archetypes.
Can you explain how archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! Work in this way? Because this was really interesting to me, and it felt a lot like that conversation we just had about making things instants.
Yeah. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Is name-specific on their cards.
Explain what that means.
Everything within an archetype will have exactly the same name. So like Dark Magician.
Yes.
You will have a bunch of cards in your deck that specify Dark Magician. If you have a card named Dark Magician.
Yes.
If you have a card named Cyber Dragon.
Yeah.
And you might have things in play that are like Cyber Dragon Dreadnought or something like that. That's not a real card. But it'll have like added words to it, or Dark Magician Girl, right? That's a real card.
Yeah.
But it counts as a Dark Magician card, but it is not the Dark Magician. So depending on how it's worded, how it's looking for specific things, one of the decks that I like to play is Generators. And it'll say, search your deck for a generator that is level 9 and put it directly into play. Things like that. Magic doesn't really have that.
Yes.
It's got a few search for Scion of Darkness, right? And put that into play. Search for the Unspeakable and put it into play.
Yes.
Because it's naming a specific card, but not a part of the name of a card
as
something you can search for.
That's really interesting because that's actually an issue in competitive Magic, where sometimes people will say a card, but it's not specific enough.
Yeah.
And the intention is very clear, but people technically are able to say, that's not the card you said.
So, yeah, they changed the rules on that, specifically because of that interaction with Borborygmos. There was a big tournament that got lost because his opponent stated Borborygmos, which is a legal card to name for the Pithing Needle, except that Borborygmos is terrible and nobody plays it.
Yes.
Borborygmos the Enraged, however, is the card that obviously he's naming when he plays Pithing Needle and says Borborygmos, on the card. So there needs to be this understanding of what card you're referring to rather than just how it's framed in it's like, oh no, you didn't quite get it right.
Say the thing. And I think that's very much the angle shooting that happens in Magic, where I think on the one hand, angle shooting being allowed makes a lot of sense. It's cool to be able to be like, I have 2 blue untapped. I'm just going to state that for reasons, right? Or being like, how many cards do you have in hand? Etc. And not really doing anything with that.
Is that your second spell or third spell?
Yeah, exactly. Like asking those kinds of questions. I think it's really fun to be able to do that. But I think like this, when people say angle shooting sucks, that specifically is like why it kind of sucks. So.
And so that's the other nice thing about keywords is because it's a shorter word, it means a very specific thing.
Yes.
The rules are understood on that. You don't have as much weird litigation in how things are framed. Oh, it doesn't technically say destroy. It's like, no, it says death touch. Like, everyone knows what death touch does.
Exactly.
Even if the specific printing of the card originally didn't have the exact wording.
Yeah. Same thing with like indestructible. Yeah. Because it like specifically calls out like it can't be destroyed by this or this. Right. But like minus whatever counters will kill it and stuff like that. So you have a very clear understanding of what gets around those keywords, so it's not like wiggly wobbly, like, does that happen? It's like very clearly called out. Yeah, so there's some negatives to it, but I think overall it's definitely a positive thing, and I will take the Magic rules base over any of the other games rules base any day. It's very true. Jake has tried to teach me lots of other games, and I technically know how to play these other games, but I 100% of the time would just rather play Magic. Yeah. Keyforged is a real game. So don't play Keyforged. Don't do it. It's also by Richard Garfield. It is. Yeah. It's fine. It's conceptually very cool. It is conceptually very cool. I had the worst deck compared to me and Jake, so I liked it less than Jake because you can't deck build in it, which is incredibly frustrating. But it's fine. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's the end of our discussion on keywords for today. Keywords. We are out of time. Ending our discussion on keywords with Keyforge. Wow. Love that. Absolutely. Anyway, we are moving to cleanup step. Thank you so much for joining us as we talk about words. Have a great rest of your day. Yeah. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for stopping by.